Excuse me, can I help you?
No, I live here. Just moved in last week.
Really? You sure you got the right house?
Pretty sure my name's on the mortgage.
I'm calling the police. You look suspicious.
You mean I look black?
Maybe?
Well, then you got police chief with you and you're in big trouble.
The Glendale Arms was a 7-story brick building from the 1970s, nestled deep within Boston's prestigious Back Bay neighborhood. A place defined by its contrasts, expensive real estate housing moderately priced rentals. It lacked the glamour of the marble lobbies nearby. There was no doorman. The laundry was coin-operated in the damp basement, and the radiator heat was notoriously loud, a persistent clanking that served as a nightly soundtrack. Here, 2-bedroom units, like the one recently acquired, fetched a relatively reasonable $2,800 a month, attracting a stable demographic of teachers, nurses, and city employees. People with decent, necessary jobs who prioritized location over luxury finishes. The hallways were narrow, dimly lit by flickering fluorescent tubes over outdated wallpaper, creating an atmosphere that felt more functional than inviting. 5 years prior, after a rash of package thefts, the management had installed a single CCTV camera at the elevator end of each floor. The resulting footage was grainy and the angle imperfect, but it was positioned precisely to capture every person and box moving between the elevator and the apartment doors. On a warm Tuesday evening in May, at precisely 6:15 p.m., the building was settling into its usual rhythm, the muffled sounds of television, the scent of various dinners drifting under doors. This mundane backdrop was about to become the stage for a dramatic, deeply embarrassing episode of racial profiling. Marcus Thompson, 43 years old, was the central figure. A man who had dedicated 22 years to law enforcement, working his way up through the Boston Police Department with quiet determination and formidable skill. Just 4 months prior, he had achieved a career-defining feat, appointed the Chief of Police for the city of Boston, a national achievement and a historic first as the department's first black chief. His appointment was not political, but earned. He had reformed the gang unit, reduced use of force incidents as deputy chief, and built critical community trust through transparency. The city council had voted unanimously, and even the often resistant police union had rallied behind him. He was qualified, he was deserving, and he was the most powerful law enforcement officer in the city. Thompson's new role demanded close proximity to headquarters, making his 40-minute commute from Quincy unsustainable. Since the death of his wife 2 years prior, and with his daughter Maya away at Howard University, he was working exhausting 70 to 80-hour weeks. He found the Glendale Arms through a colleague. Nothing fancy, but clean and critically close to work. Unit 412, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, would serve his needs. The second bedroom would be Maya's room when she visited during school breaks, a poignant reminder of his private life amidst the demands of public service. His application was complete, his background check instant, and management knew exactly who he was. His title was clearly stated on the lease. Everything was meticulously official, legal, and documented. This Tuesday was move-in day. Thompson had hired movers for the large furniture, but was handling the personal items himself. Boxes of clothes, kitchenware, irreplaceable photo albums of his late wife, and cherished childhood drawings of Maya. He was dressed for labor, faded jeans and an old sweat-dampened Boston Marathon sweatshirt. Out of 22 years of habit, his police badge was clipped to his belt, obscured slightly but present. His service weapon was safely locked in his car. He had been hauling boxes for 90 minutes, exhausted but driven by the need to settle in before the next day's budget meeting. He was, to all objective observation, simply a man moving into his apartment. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. But 2 doors down, his new neighbor was watching, and she had already decided he did not belong. Jennifer Morrison, 38, lived in Unit 414. She was blonde, a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, and saw herself as the self-appointed, unofficial eyes and ears of the 4th floor. She had lived there for 6 years, developing a toxic sense of ownership over the communal space, and she held strong, often biased opinions about who was acceptable in the Glendale Arms. Her history was a catalog of nuisance complaints. She'd successfully reported college students for partying, filed unfounded complaints against an Indian family for the smell of their cooking, and once confronted a delivery driver who turned out to be a tenant. Management privately considered her overly vigilant and prone to reporting non-issues, but they tolerated her. That evening, Jennifer arrived home at 5:45 p.m., noticed the moving activity at Unit 412, and instead of walking inside, she stood at her door, peering through the peephole, actively looking for trouble. At 6:12 p.m., the grainy hallway CCTV captured Thompson exiting the elevator. Black man, early 40s, athletic build, carrying a cardboard box labeled Maya's Room. He walked down the hallway, stopped at 412, balanced the box against the wall, pulled keys from his pocket, unlocked the door, and carried the box inside. This was the behavior of a legal resident using his keys to access his apartment. It was normal, legal, and non-criminal. But Jennifer, pressed to her peephole, saw a black man entering the recently vacated apartment next door, and her mind immediately defaulted to the worst-case scenario: crime. Over the next 23 minutes, the time-stamped CCTV showed Thompson making 4 more routine trips: 6:16, 6:22, 6:31, 6:35. Each time, keys, door, inside. Each trip, though completely normal, cemented Jennifer's preconceived narrative. Black man, repeated unauthorized access to apartment, must be robbing it. She decided he had either picked the lock, stolen keys, or that management had made a grievous error renting to him. In her worldview, he did not belong. At 6:38 p.m., the CCTV captured the confrontation. Jennifer flung her door open, stepping into the hallway just as Thompson was walking toward the elevator for yet another trip. Jennifer's posture was captured perfectly: aggressive, shoulders squared, chin up, her phone already clutched in her hand. She blocked his path. The CCTV, lacking audio, told the story through motion and expression. Jennifer's mouth moved first. "Excuse me, can I help you?" Thompson stopped, his expression one of immediate, weary recognition, the deep, soul-sapping exhaustion of being questioned in a place he had every right to be. "No, I live here, just moved in last week." Jennifer's face, clear on the grainy footage, registered pure, entrenched skepticism. She looked him up and down, her eyes lingering on his clothes, his hands, his skin. "Really? You sure you've got the right apartment?" Thompson's shoulders dropped slightly. "Pretty sure. My name's on the lease." Jennifer raised her phone, her finger poised over the keypad. "I'm calling the police. You look suspicious." Thompson closed his eyes briefly, drawing a slow, deliberate breath, visibly bracing himself against the expected wave of bias. The camera captured the tension in his jaw. "You mean I look black?" Jennifer's face on the CCTV showed a brief, defensive flicker. She was caught, but her conviction remained. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again to issue the devastating reply: "Maybe." Thompson unclipped his badge from his belt. The camera angle was imperfect, but the gold flash of the official police badge catching the flickering fluorescent light was unmistakable. He held it up, directly in front of Jennifer's face, his mouth moving as he spoke the words that should have instantly ended the confrontation and generated a panicked apology. "Well, then you've got the police chief with you, and you're in big trouble." Jennifer's reaction was captured in exquisite, devastating detail. Her face went white. Her mouth formed a small O. Her phone remained clutched in her hand, her finger frozen over the dial button. The footage shows her standing absolutely still for 4 full seconds, processing the monumental, career-ending disaster she had just triggered. She had threatened to call the police on the police chief. She had racially profiled the most powerful law enforcement official in the city and accused him of burglary when he was the one person with the authority to arrest her for filing a false report. The CCTV footage was now undeniable evidence. Jennifer's aggressive confrontation, Thompson's patient identification, the badge reveal, and her subsequent paralyzing shock, all time-stamped, recorded, and preserved. The footage continues, showing Jennifer backing away, her hand moving reflexively to her mouth. Thompson, without another word, clipped the badge back onto his belt, picked up his boxes, and walked to the elevator. Jennifer stood frozen in the hallway for 42 seconds after the elevator doors closed, staring blankly at the space Thompson had just occupied. When the elevator returned, Thompson walked out carrying another box, passed Jennifer without looking at her, unlocked his door, and went inside. Jennifer then hurried back into 414, closing her door. Timestamp 6:41 p.m. At 6:43 p.m., exactly 2 minutes after seeing the chief of police's badge, Jennifer Morrison called 911 anyway. The call recording, later released, was a masterclass in committed denial. "Hi, I'm at the Glendale Arms, apartment 414. There's a man next door who showed me a police badge, but I don't think it's real. I think he might be impersonating an officer to rob the apartment. He's black and he's been going in and out with boxes." The dispatcher's voice was strained. "Ma'am, you're reporting someone for showing you a police badge? Anyone can buy a fake badge. He doesn't look like a police officer." "What does a police officer look like, ma'am?" "Not like him." "Can you describe what he's doing that's illegal?" "Using keys to go into the apartment next to mine." "But ma'am, if he has keys and he's moving boxes, he's likely a legal tenant. What specifically makes you believe he's committing a crime?" After a long, telling pause, Jennifer whispered, "He just looks suspicious." The dispatcher reluctantly sent a unit, flagging the call as a welfare check with a high likelihood of racial profiling, requiring careful handling. 2 Boston police officers responded. By a devastating coincidence, both were officers who worked directly under Chief Thompson's command. They arrived at 6:58 p.m. The building super, who had watched the confrontation live on the CCTV feed and was furious about Jennifer's long history of complaints, immediately informed the officers. "That's the new police chief in 412. The blonde lady in 414 harassed him and called you guys after he showed her his badge." The officers knew instantly this was the most catastrophic, career-jeopardizing welfare check of all time. They took the elevator up, walked down the hallway, and knocked on 412. Thompson answered, still in his sweatshirt, badge on his belt, keys in hand, with stacks of moving boxes visible behind him. Officer Sarah Martinez tried to maintain professional composure through her horror. "Chief Thompson, Martinez, Walsh, what brings you to my new apartment?" Thompson leaned against the doorframe, a weary resignation settling over his features. "Let me guess. Blonde woman in Unit 414 called after I showed her my badge and told her I'm the police chief?" Thompson produced his Massachusetts driver's license, showing the new address, and the lease agreement from a nearby box. "Chief, I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry." "Not your fault. You responded to a call, but I want this documented. I want the 911 call recording preserved. I want the CCTV footage from this hallway pulled and saved. And I want building management notified about the false report and the racial profiling." Jennifer's door cracked open. She peered out, saw the 2 uniformed officers talking deferentially to Thompson, and the full, horrifying reality of her actions hit her. Officer Walsh approached her door. "Ma'am, are you Jennifer Morrison? You called 911. I thought—" "You thought what, ma'am? You saw Chief Thompson, the Boston police chief, moving into his own apartment with keys and a lease, and you thought he was burglarizing it. Did you see his badge when he showed it to you?" Jennifer's face crumpled. "Yes, but I thought maybe it was fake." "Why would you think it was fake?" The only honest answer, the one she couldn't utter, was, "Because he's black, and I couldn't imagine a black man being the police chief." Martinez's voice was cold and firm. "Ma'am, filing a false police report is a crime. Racially profiling a tenant violates fair housing laws. Chief Thompson will decide whether to pursue charges. I strongly suggest you consult an attorney." Jennifer's door closed immediately, followed by the sound of muffled crying. The fallout was instant and overwhelming. Thompson's legal team requested the CCTV footage immediately. The building super, delighted by the opportunity to expose a problem tenant, leaked it to social media within hours. By morning, the grainy video had spread like wildfire. Boston police chief racially profiled by white neighbor while moving into his own apartment. The mayor issued a statement condemning the profiling. The NAACP demanded prosecution. Jennifer Morrison's life imploded within 48 hours. Her face from the CCTV footage was everywhere. People identified her, found her LinkedIn, and contacted her employer. Her pharmaceutical company placed her on administrative leave within 24 hours, and by Friday, she was fired. Our company values diversity and inclusion. Miss Morrison's actions do not reflect our values. Her employment has been terminated. Thompson filed a civil lawsuit against Jennifer Morrison for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of the Fair Housing Act, seeking $120,000. Her attorney reviewed the evidence, the time-stamped CCTV, the 911 recording, the police chief's lease, and recognized there was no defense. The evidence was damning. The call recording worse. They settled within 5 months for the full $120,000 paid to Thompson. Additionally, Jennifer was required to complete 100 hours of racial bias education and community service. But the financial and legal consequences were the least of it. She lost her $78,000 a year job, found herself unemployable in her field, and was forced to break her lease and move out of the Glendale Arms. The atmosphere created by the other tenants made her continued residency impossible. She left Boston entirely, moving back to her hometown in Ohio to restart her life with a low-paying retail job. Meanwhile, Chief Thompson settled into Unit 412. His other neighbors were welcoming, some apologizing for Jennifer's behavior, others simply treating him normally. He walked to work in 22 minutes, and while the radiators still clanked, the building became home. Maya visited for Thanksgiving, happy to have her own room. Thompson gave several interviews, often with the CCTV footage playing behind him, ensuring his message was clear. "I'm 43 years old. I'm the police chief of a major American city. I signed a lease, passed a background check, paid $8,400 up front to move into a regular apartment building, and my neighbor saw me unlocking my door with my own keys and called 911. He paused, pointing to the footage. "You can see it all. I'm carrying boxes with my daughter's name on them. My badge is on my belt, and she still thought I was a criminal. She saw a black man and couldn't imagine any legitimate reason I'd be there. I showed her my badge, police chief, and she called 911 anyway, not because she couldn't see the badge, but because she couldn't believe it was real. She couldn't accept that I'd earned this position. She couldn't imagine a black man being the chief." Thompson articulated the core issue. This isn't about luxury buildings. This is about everyday racism in everyday places. If this can happen to me, the police chief with a badge on my belt and keys in my hand, what happens to black people without badges, without positions of authority, without resources to fight back? The grainy CCTV footage resonated because it was so ordinary. A shabby hallway, a tired man, a petty, bigoted neighbor. The mundanity made the racism more visceral, more recognizable. The Boston Police Department implemented new protocols for responding to suspected racial profiling calls. Property management companies reviewed their tenant complaint policies. But the incident remains a powerful testament that Jennifer Morrison's racism was stronger than facts, stronger than logic, and stronger than the sight of a badge held directly in front of her face. Marcus Thompson still lives in Unit 412, still walks to work, but he remains aware that some people look at him and see a threat before they see his badge, his work, or his humanity, even in his own hallway. The consequences, the loss of job, the massive lawsuit, the public shaming, do not undo the harm or restore the simple dignity of unlocking your own door without being treated as a criminal. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was about a black man succeeding and being punished for that success by someone whose racial worldview could not accommodate the truth.